What a great song to start my talk out with. And it truly is a wonderful world. I think it comes down to how we choose to see it. And that is going to be part of the theme that I'll be talking about this morning. What does inspiration look like? How does it feel? How do you know when you are being inspired? For many people, inspiration is this elusive feeling that is looked for but rarely found. Or it's something we see active in others, a desire to find in ourselves. Inspiration comes in many forms. It often comes from a single thought or idea. Living an inspired life is more than being inspired. It is far greater than being inspiring. Living an inspired life is nothing short of being open to inspiration in whatever form it comes to you. Living an inspired life is doing something you are passionate about. Living an inspired life is presenting your authentic self to the world and living that life that feels right for you. Living an inspired life is following your dreams and passions, wherever they may take you, regardless of how sound a path it may appear to others. Living an inspired life is listening to your inner guidance, drowning out the chatter and negativity of those who do not share your vision. Living an inspired life is nothing short, nothing less than being open to new possibilities, dreams, guidance, and living a life of oneness with God. I say living a life of oneness with God, but as we all know, you already do. Living an inspired life means truly recognizing that you are one with God, one with Spirit, one with Source. And as we all know, we cannot live separate from God, no matter how hard we might try sometimes. When we are open to inspiration, we find it in the simplest places. In the laugh of a child, the tears of a senior. We see signs around us that lead us in the right direction. And we know it is the right direction because we are following our passions. Your passion is God's voice speaking through you. It is the presence of your higher self, your God self, guiding, directing, and leading you to your purpose. Now, I've learned over the years that when I follow that guidance, when I allow inspiration to guide my words, my actions, and my deeds, that I find fulfillment beyond my wildest dreams. I've also found that no matter how small the inspiration, the more I follow the signs, the more I listen to Spirit, the more signs and inspiration I see. The more I listen, the easier it gets to hear. I'd like to share a story with you that was shared with me by a truly inspirational person in my life. And it is a true story, and it's one that I honestly hope I get right, even if I don't get all the details perfect, because the end of the story is what is truly inspirational. The individual in question was attending a church regularly, but this Sunday she went to another. It was not her regular church, but she'd heard about it and thought she would try it out. Perhaps she knew someone who went there, or maybe she drove by and thought, why not? Let's stop and see. The denomination of the church doesn't really matter, only that it was not her regular church. Now, during service, the pastor announced that there was a homeless man in the congregation who required healing and love. He invited the homeless man to step forward and then asked the congregation to come forward and lay hands on the gentleman to pray for and give healing energy. She, like many others in the congregation, was moved to step forward and love this homeless gentleman. And as she got closer, as she approached the man and saw his face, she was shocked. She looked upon the face of this man and was shocked to see that she knew him. In fact, she knew him very well. Beneath the ragged clothing, the dirt, the hunger, and the loneliness was none other than her very own nephew. No one in her family knew that he was homeless. No one knew he was suffering. Yet because she was, in her words, led to this church by God, because she was inspired to and followed the inspiration to attend a church that was not her own, because she felt the inspiration of God speaking through her to step forward and lay hands upon this person, she not only reconnected with her nephew, but she managed to rally many of her family members to step forward and provide aid and love. Now, what led him to be homeless is not essential. Judgment was neither required nor offered. What mattered is she listened. She acted. And more than one life was changed that day. Because that one act of inspiration, not only was his life changed, so too was hers. This might have been her first step in the world of social activism, even if she didn't know it at the time. It also changed the lives of some of her family and opened their eyes to suffering of another human being, a family member, no less. Now, for reasons that I'm not at liberty to explain, for this really is not my story, I couldn't stop thinking about this after I heard it. I could not believe the number of coincidences that had to happen to make this story even possible. Now, I had already chosen this week's topic before I even heard the story. And hearing the story was another sign that the inspiration for living an inspired life was genuinely inspired by Spirit, and that I had to include her story this morning. So if you think about it, you'll realize that there's no such thing as coincidence. Life is a series of feelings, ideas, and passions that, when recognized, when we have the faith to follow, end in miracles both large and small, which we do like to imagine are nothing more than coincidences. Now, not every act of inspiration stems from nor produces a passion. Following God's purpose does not always mean something huge. A couple of weeks ago, I woke to find an inspirational post on Facebook. Yes, Facebook can be inspirational. It just depends on who and what you follow. Now, there was no author credited, but I'm going to share it with you this morning. It's titled, Note to Self. What is my purpose in life? I asked the void. What if I told you you fulfilled it when you took an extra hour to talk to that kid about his life? Said the voice. Or when you paid for that young couple in the restaurant. Or when you saved that dog in traffic. Or when you tied your father's shoes for him. Your problem is that you equate your purpose with goal-based achievement. The universe isn't interested in your achievements, just your kindness, compassion, and love. You are already aligned with your true purpose. No need to look any further. Now, the moral of this little tale is that when you are open, you will find and see inspiration. You will find and be fulfilled by purpose disguised in very mundane acts. The voice of God, the love of Spirit, and the openness of an inspired heart will manifest as fulfillment of God's purpose for you on earth. Sometimes inspiration comes from seeing injustice and knowing that you must do something, even when you have no clue what you can do. If you act on the inspiration, the way will open for you. Each step will be inspired. Sometimes inspiration comes because you see a problem and you suddenly know how to fix or resolve it. They say necessity is the mother of all invention. And this means that the primary driving force for most inventions is need. Invention is inspired by necessity. How often have you felt the need to go one direction when you knew you needed to go another? That is inspiration. Have you ever been lost for an idea or a concept only to pick up a random book or publication and find the answer you were looking for? So Friday afternoon, I was driving home from work, and I was thinking about this morning's topic. I was thinking about the work that I do, and I wondered what I could possibly have to say on the subject of living an inspired life. What is so special about me? What have I done with my life that is more inspiring than anyone else? So as I drove from Riverside to Corona on the 91 freeway, which on a Friday afternoon is a long drive, in front of me, the clouds appeared to part. And in between these parted clouds, individual rays of sunlight started streaming down on the freeway and appeared to be pointing to a sign on the freeway that I'd either never seen or was brand new. I couldn't believe what the sign actually said. Live your inspired life. How I've missed it, if it wasn't brand new Friday afternoon, I have no idea. But there it was, and literally the clouds parted and the sun was shining on it. It was definitely a very inspiring moment. So whether you impact 1 million people or one person, you're having an impact. Imagine if every person today just touched the life of one other person. The outcome would be incredible. So I ask you, what are you waiting for? Why settle for almost doing what you love? Almost changing the world. I genuinely believe that each of us can change the world. I believe each of us feels the inspiration to change the world. Now, most of us can't do it on our own. Few of us will ever know the full impact of our lives upon the lives of others. Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, just to name a few, changed the world in ways we cannot ever imagine. Yet at the time, their reach and impact were rather small. Their sphere of influence was minor compared to the massive changes they brought about globally, which are still felt and lived today. Now, these three were great teachers. All three lived what I would call very inspired lives. And their core teachings continue to live in the hearts of millions, continue to inspire others to do works, great and small, in the name of love, compassion, and gratitude. I'm not speaking of religion or religious doctrine. I'm speaking of the core message that each brought to the earth and the value their lives added to the world and the continued value added to this planet thousands of years later. Each of us can change the world. We change the world one heart, one mind, and one soul at a time. We transform the world by following our passion. We change the world by following inspiration where it leads and being inspiring to others. We inspire others by living our authentic truths, by being our authentic selves, and by showing kindness and love to all of God's creations. As Randy shared this morning in his reading, we change the world by being the light that not only illuminates the darkness, but transforms the darkness into light. When inspiration fails us, when we have no idea which way to turn, Speak to someone who inspires you, and let their inspirational light transform the darkness of your doubt into its own light. 5 years ago, I was inspired to walk a path that felt foreign to me. I was called to ministry. Not out of ego, not out of a desire to be rich and famous, but rather a call to inspire others to live their authentic truths, to discover their best selves, and forgive the injuries of the past. Now, I began this path fearing I would not be accepted, fearing that I would not be inspirational enough nor eloquent enough to express my beliefs. I followed that path that inspiration led me down, and I found love and acceptance, not to mention a field of possibilities both professionally and personally. Now, I'm not going to lie. I do not always heed the call of inspiration. I do not always live an inspirational life. Sometimes I allow fear to hold me back. Sometimes I'm stubborn enough to believe I know better and fight inspiration both tooth and nail. In June, I was hit once more with inspiration. I had been talking about leaving my former employer for months, but never so much as sent out an inquiry or a resume. One morning, I felt inspired to send an inquiring email to someone I knew. And 3 weeks later, I was working elsewhere. The work did not actually change, but the geography, the expanded mission of the agency, and the passion of our director exposed me to a whole new world, a world of endless possibilities, increased stress, and a few extra sleepless nights. It has also ignited my passion once again to make a difference. What had once been a passion and then became a job has once again become a passion and allowed me to live my own inspired life. Are you living your inspired life? Are you receptive to God's plan for you? Do you understand that what you want for you is the same as what God wants for you? And that you have the power to live an inspired life as well as being inspiring to others? This morning, I'm going to leave you with one final question. What will you do to change the world? Thank you for being here this morning, for being a part of my journey, part of my inspired life. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you. Peace be with you.